What would you do if your love was put on trial by an entire community? Would you stand tall or walk away? This is the story of Emma Carter, a white teacher who risked everything to stand by her black boyfriend, Jordan Blake, in the face of vicious racism, hate, and betrayal. But their love didn't just survive. It became a beacon of hope and strength for everyone who witnessed it. Emma Carter, a 28-year-old high school English teacher in the small, conservative town of Willow Creek, never expected to fall in love with Jordan Blake, a 30-year-old jazz musician who moved to town to care for his ailing grandmother. Their love story began innocently. A chance meeting at a local cafe, a shared love for music, and a connection that felt like destiny. But when their relationship became public, the town's deep-seated racism reared its ugly head. Emma faced backlash from parents, colleagues, and even her students. Jordan was targeted with threats and vandalism. Their love was tested in ways they never imagined. But through it all, they held on to each other, proving that love can conquer even the darkest hatred. Will Emma and Jordan's love survive the storm, or will the weight of prejudice tear them apart? Stay with us until the end, because this story will leave you speechless. Let's begin. Emma Carter had always been a dreamer. At 28, she was the kind of teacher who believed in the power of words to change lives. She taught English at Willow Creek High, a small school in a town where everyone knew everyone, and everyone had an opinion. Emma loved her job, but her life felt like it was missing something. That something turned out to be Jordan Blake. Jordan, a 30-year-old jazz musician, had recently moved to Willow Creek to care for his ailing grandmother. He was tall, with a warm smile and a saxophone that seemed to sing stories of its own. Emma first saw him at a local jazz night, a small event held at the town's only cafe. She was there with her best friend, Sarah, who had dragged her out to live a little. The moment Jordan stepped onto the stage, the room fell silent. His music was unlike anything Emma had ever heard, raw, emotional, and full of life. She couldn't take her eyes off him. When their eyes met during his performance, Emma felt something she hadn't felt in years, a spark. After the show, Emma nervously approached Jordan to compliment his music. To her surprise, he was just as captivated by her. They talked for hours that night, discovering they had more in common than they ever imagined. Both loved art, both believed in making a difference, and both had dreams that stretched far beyond the borders of Willow Creek. Their first date was magical. Jordan took Emma to a quiet spot by the lake, where they shared a picnic under the stars. He played a melody he had composed just for her, a song he called Emma's Waltz. It was in that moment, with the moonlight reflecting off the water and Jordan's music filling the air, that Emma realized she was falling in love. But their happiness was short-lived. One sunny afternoon, Emma and Jordan decided to take a walk in the park. They held hands, laughed, and talked about their future. Unbeknownst to them, someone took a photo of them and posted it on a local community Facebook page. The caption read, "Is this the kind of example we want for our children?" The comments section exploded. "Disgusting," one person wrote. "She's a teacher. What kind of message is she sending?" Another added, "He's just using her." Someone else commented. Emma's phone buzzed nonstop with notifications. Parents, colleagues, and even strangers were weighing in on her relationship. The principal called her into his office the next day. "Emma, I'm not saying you've done anything wrong," he began, his tone cautious. "But your relationship is causing unnecessary controversy. You need to think about your career." Emma left the meeting feeling numb. She had always known Willow Creek was a conservative town, but she never imagined her love life would become a public debate. Meanwhile, Jordan was facing his own struggles. One morning, he found his car vandalized. The word "leave" was spray painted across the windshield, along with a racial slur. Jordan stared at the damage, his heart pounding. He had faced racism before, but this felt personal. That evening, Emma and Jordan sat together on her porch, trying to make sense of the chaos. "Maybe we should take a break," Emma suggested, her voice trembling. "Just until things calm down." Jordan shook his head. If we give in now, they win. I'm not going anywhere, Emma. Not unless you tell me to. Emma looked into his eyes and saw the same determination she felt in her own heart. She reached for his hand. Then we fight. Together. But as they sat there, holding on to each other, an envelope slid under Emma's front door. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a chilling message. Leave now, or face the consequences. Who sent the letter? What will Emma and Jordan do next? The storm is just beginning. The letter shook Emma to her core. She stared at the words, her hands trembling. Jordan took the paper from her, his jaw tightening as he read it. We can't let them scare us, he said firmly, though Emma could see the worry in his eyes. But the threats didn't stop there. The next day at school, Emma noticed the whispers. Students who once greeted her with smiles now avoided her gaze. When she walked into her classroom, she found a note scribbled on her desk. Stay away from him. Emma tried to brush it off, but the tension was palpable. During lunch, one of her colleagues, Mrs. Thompson, pulled her aside. Emma, I'm saying this as a friend, Mrs. Thompson began, her voice low. You need to be careful. People are talking, and it's not just the parents. Some of the staff are uncomfortable too. Emma felt a lump form in her throat. Uncomfortable with what? My relationship is my business. Mrs. Thompson sighed. I know, but this is Willow Creek. People here don't like change. Meanwhile, Jordan was facing his own battles. He had been booked to play at a local bar, but the owner called him the day before the gig. I'm sorry, Jordan, the owner said, sounding genuinely apologetic. But some folks have been giving me a hard time about having you here. I can't afford to lose business. Jordan hung up, frustrated but not surprised. He had faced rejection before, but this felt different. This wasn't just about his music. It was about who he was. That night, Emma and Jordan met at their usual spot by the lake. The air was crisp and the stars were out, but the magic of their first date felt like a distant memory. We can't let them win, Emma said, her voice steady despite the fear in her heart. We need to show them that love is stronger than hate. Jordan nodded. What do you have in mind? Emma smiled for the first time in days. A concert, right here, by the lake. We'll invite the whole town. We'll show them that we're not afraid. Jordan loved the idea. They spent the next week planning the event, spreading the word through social media and flyers. They called it Love Has No Color, and they hoped it would be a turning point for Willow Creek. But not everyone shared their optimism. The night of the concert, Emma and Jordan arrived early to set up. The stage was simple, just a few lights and a sound system, but it felt like a symbol of hope. As the sun set, people began to arrive. Some were supportive, but others stood at the back, their arms crossed and their expressions cold. Emma took the stage first, her voice shaking as she addressed the crowd. Thank you for coming, she began. This isn't just a concert. It's a celebration of love, of unity, of the belief that we're stronger together than we are apart. The crowd clapped, but the applause was mixed with murmurs of disapproval. Then Jordan stepped onto the stage, his saxophone gleaming under the lights. He played a melody that was both haunting and beautiful, a song that spoke of pain and hope. For a moment, it felt like the world stood still. But the moment didn't last. Halfway through the performance, a group of protesters arrived, holding signs that read "Go home" and "Not in our town." They shouted slurs, drowning out Jordan's music. Someone threw a bottle, shattering it near the stage. Emma froze, her heart pounding. Jordan stopped playing and pulled her close, shielding her from the chaos. We need to go, he said, his voice urgent. As they hurried away, Emma caught a glimpse of the teenagers who had started the #LoveHasNoColor campaign. They stood at the edge of the crowd, holding their signs high, their faces filled with determination. The protesters have made their message clear, but Emma and Jordan aren't ready to give up. What will they do next? And who are the teenagers brave enough to stand with them? The night of the Sabotage concert left Emma and Jordan shaken. They sat in Emma's living room, the silence heavy between them. Emma stared at her hands. trying to hold back tears. Jordan reached for her, his touch grounding her. "We can't let them win," he said softly. "We've come too far to give up now." Emma nodded, but the weight of everything felt overwhelming. The next morning, she woke up to a text from Sarah. "Check the hashtag #LoveHasNoColor hashtag. It's going viral." Emma opened her phone and gasped. The teenagers who had stood with them at the concert had posted videos and photos of the protest, along with heartfelt messages about love and unity. The hashtag was trending, and people from all over the country were sharing their support. One post stood out. It was from a girl named Lily, one of Emma's students. "Ms. Carter is the bravest person I know. She taught me that love is love, no matter what anyone says." Hashtag #LoveHasNoColor. Emma felt a surge of hope. Maybe they weren't alone after all. But the backlash wasn't over. Later that day, Emma received a call from the school. Her suspension had been lifted, but the principal warned her to keep her personal life private. Emma hung up, frustrated but determined to keep fighting. Meanwhile, Jordan was dealing with his own challenges. His grandmother, the only family he had left, had fallen ill. He rushed her to the hospital, only to be met with hostility. "I'm sorry, but we're fully booked," the receptionist said, not even looking up from her computer. Jordan's jaw tightened. "My grandmother needs help. Please." The receptionist glanced at him, her expression cold. "You'll have to wait." Emma arrived shortly after and immediately stepped in. "This is unacceptable. You can't deny someone medical care because of their race." Her words caught the attention of a nurse, who quickly intervened. Jordan's grandmother was admitted, but the incident left them both shaken. As they sat in the waiting room, Emma's phone buzzed. It was a message from a civil rights activist named Marcus Green, who had seen the hashtag #LoveHasNoColor campaign. "I'd like to help you," the message read. "Your story is powerful, and it's time Willow Creek heard it." Emma showed the message to Jordan, who nodded. "Let's do it." With Marcus's help, they organized a town hall meeting to address the racism in Willow Creek. The event was set for the following week, and the response was overwhelming. Supporters from neighboring towns promised to attend, but so did the protesters. The night before the meeting, Emma and Jordan sat on her porch, watching the sunset. "Are you ready for this?" Emma asked, her voice quiet. Jordan took her hand. "As long as I'm with you, I'm ready for anything." The town hall meeting is tomorrow, and tensions are high. Will Emma and Jordan's message of love and unity be heard, or will the protesters drown them out once again? The day of the town hall meeting arrived, and the atmosphere in Willow Creek was electric. The community center was packed, with supporters and protesters filling the room. Emma and Jordan stood backstage, their nerves palpable. Marcus Green, the civil rights activist, gave them a reassuring smile. "This is your moment," he said. "Speak from the heart, and don't let anyone silence you." Emma took a deep breath and stepped onto the stage, Jordan by her side. The room fell silent as she began to speak. "Thank you all for being here," she said, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. "This isn't just about me or Jordan. It's about all of us. It's about the kind of community we want to be, a community where love is celebrated, not condemned." She shared her story, from the moment she met Jordan to the hate they had faced. Her words were raw and emotional, and the room listened intently. Then Jordan took the microphone. "I didn't choose to fall in love with Emma," he said, his voice strong, "but I'm glad I did. She's taught me that love is worth fighting for, no matter how hard it gets. And I hope our story can inspire others to stand up for what's right." The room erupted in applause, but not everyone was moved. A group of protesters stood up, shouting slurs and holding signs that read "Go home" and "Not in our town." Marcus stepped forward, his presence commanding. "This is exactly why we're here," he said, his voice booming. "Hate has no place in Willow Creek. It's time to choose love." The mayor, who had been sitting quietly in the front row, stood up. "I've heard enough," he said. "It's time for change." He announced a new initiative to promote diversity and inclusion in Willow Creek. including workshops, community events, and a task force to address racism. The room erupted in cheers, but the protesters stormed out, their anger palpable. Emma and Jordan left the meeting feeling hopeful, but they knew the fight wasn't over. That night, as they sat on Emma's porch, they received a threatening phone call. "You think you won? This is just the beginning." The threats are escalating, and Emma and Jordan know they're not safe. What will they do next? And who is behind the threats? The threatening phone call left Emma and Jordan on edge. They knew the fight wasn't over, but they didn't realize how dangerous it would become. The next morning, Emma woke up to the sound of shattering glass. She rushed to the living room to find her front window broken, a brick lying on the floor with a note tied to it. "You've been warned." Jordan arrived shortly after, his face pale. "Emma, we need to talk." He showed her a video that had been sent to his phone. It was footage of him walking home from a gig the night before. The video cut to a group of masked men surrounding him, shouting slurs and threats. Jordan had managed to escape, but the message was clear. They weren't safe. Emma's heart raced. "We can't stay here, Jordan. It's too dangerous." Jordan shook his head. "If we leave now, they win. I'm not running away." But Emma couldn't shake the fear. That afternoon, she received another blow. A petition had been started to have her fired from her job. The petition claimed she was promoting inappropriate behavior and was a bad influence on her students. Emma felt like the walls were closing in. She called Sarah, her voice trembling. "I don't know what to do." Sarah was silent for a moment. "Emma, you fought so hard. But maybe it's time to think about your safety. You and Jordan could start fresh somewhere else." Emma hung up torn. She didn't want to leave Willow Creek, but she couldn't keep putting herself and Jordan in danger. That evening, Jordan surprised her with a picnic by the lake, the place where their love story had begun. As the sun set, he got down on one knee and pulled out a small box. "Emma," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I don't know what the future holds, but I know I want to face it with you. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down Emma's face as she nodded. "Yes," she whispered. But their joy was short-lived. The next day, Emma's students organized a walkout in support of her. Dozens of teenagers stood outside the school, holding signs that read "Love has no color" and "We stand with Ms. Carter." The principal had no choice but to address the situation. He called Emma into his office and offered her a deal. If she stayed, she would have to keep her relationship with Jordan private. Emma refused. "I won't hide who I am or who I love," she said firmly. The principal sighed. "Then I'm afraid I have no choice but to accept your resignation." Emma left the school feeling a mix of anger and relief. She had lost her job, but she had gained something far more important: her integrity. Emma and Jordan are engaged, but the threats are escalating. Will they stay and fight, or will they leave Willow Creek behind? Emma and Jordan stood at a crossroads. The threats, the vandalism, and the loss of Emma's job had taken a toll on them, but their love had only grown stronger. They knew they couldn't stay in Willow Creek, but leaving felt like giving up. One evening, as they sat on Emma's porch, Jordan broke the silence. "What if we leave?" he said quietly. "Not because we're scared, but because we deserve better. We deserve a place where we can live and love without fear." Emma looked at him, tears in her eyes. "Where would we go?" Jordan smiled. "Anywhere, as long as we're together." The decision wasn't easy, but it felt right. They packed their belongings and said goodbye to the few friends who had stood by them, including Sarah and the students who had supported them. As they drove out of Willow Creek, Emma felt a mix of sadness and relief. She glanced at Jordan, who was focused on the road, his hand resting on hers. "We're going to be okay," she said softly. Jordan nodded. "We already are." They settled in a small city a few hours away, where diversity was celebrated and love was just love. Emma found a job at a progressive school, where her passion for teaching was welcomed. Jordan's music career took off, and he was soon playing at venues across the country. One evening, As they sat in their new home, Emma received a package. Inside was a letter from Lily, the student who had started the #LoveHasNoColor campaign. Dear Ms. Carter, thank you for teaching me that love is worth fighting for. Because of you, I stood up to a bully at school. You and Jordan inspired me to be brave. I'll never forget you. Emma read the letter aloud to Jordan, tears streaming down her face. We did that, she said, her voice filled with wonder. We made a difference. Jordan pulled her close. And we're just getting started. Months later, Emma and Jordan got married in a small, intimate ceremony surrounded by friends, family, and supporters. The wedding was a celebration of love, resilience, and hope. As they danced under the stars, Jordan whispered in Emma's ear, "This is just the beginning." And it was. Emma and Jordan's journey is far from over. What will they do next? And how will their story continue to inspire others? Love is worth fighting for. If Emma and Jordan's story inspired you, hit the like button, share this video, and let us know in the comments, what would you have done in their shoes? Don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories of love, courage, and resilience. Emma and Jordan's love story is a reminder that even in the face of hate, love can prevail. Their courage and determination not only changed their lives, but also inspired an entire community to stand up for what's right. Thank you for watching, and remember, love has no color, no boundaries, and no limits. Stay connected with us for more inspiring stories. And don't forget to share this video with someone who needs a reminder that love always wins.